This is Political Common Sense for America. I'm Brian Boheim, the political engineer. And this is part 2 of understanding the federal budget. If you're going to make good decisions on what type of tax reform we need in this country, then you need to understand how the money is spent and how the money is collected. So in this particular video, I want to talk about how the money is collected. The first thing you need to realize is that we collected in 2009 $2.1 trillion in receipts for the United States government. So here's a quick pie chart talking about where the tax revenue came from. 915 in individual income taxes, that's you and me. Corporate taxes, 138 billion. Social Security, 654 billion. Medicare, 191, unemployment, 38, and other taxes like excise taxes and customs, etc. It's $167 billion. So now here's where it becomes interesting, because if you look at the discretionary budget and how much it costs in terms of spending versus how much we collect, we're only off by $166 billion. Now, I know that's a big number. I'm not trying to make that a petty number in any way. But the reality is that it's just not that much money. A few cuts here and a few realistic extra collections there, and we've got that covered. Where we have run into a huge problem is the mandatory programs. Look at the difference in the mandatory programs. So let's break this out by program, and we can really see where the problem is. First, look at the security and non-security issues. Yeah, non-security isn't covered completely, but that goes back to the fact of these special programs and earmarks that congressmen put in there. Security issues, Department of Defense, Homeland Security, and Social Security is covered. Yes, we're starting to get an imbalance in Social Security, but we know why that is. Here's where we really start running into the problem. There's 3 areas. Medicare and Medicaid. We just don't have that funded. We haven't put the money into that, and it was never supposed to come out of income tax. And here's the other part. Other programs. Other mandatory programs that we've promised out there that we can't afford, and we never assigned any revenue source to cover it. This is what we have a problem with. To the point, the other programs is $607 billion, if you remember from the other video. So here are some conclusions we can draw from this data. First, we are very close to covering all the discretionary budget with income tax. The reality is that there's almost $500 billion in uncollected individual income tax that the IRS is cheated out of every year. If we just collect that with a few reasonable cutbacks, we could easily have a surplus. Second, the corporate tax is a pass-through tax that hits the price of goods and reduces wages. Based on the effective increase in individual tax revenue, we could easily eliminate the corporate tax, allowing global companies to repatriate foreign profits and jobs back to the United States. Finally, when you examine the numbers where the deficit comes from, it is clearly a derivative of the increase in Medicare and Medicaid expenses, along with the $607 billion in other programs that aren't accounted for with any type of revenue source. This, as much as anything, is why we need to ensure transparency in the budgeting process. Check for our next video, part 3, where we're going to start diving into individual types of tax reform and how they work and how they don't.